I love a good 3D platformer. When I first played Mario 64, I was blown away by the game's sense of freedom and exploration. The game had specific objectives, but with Mario's moveset and each level's open and non-linear design, there were a variety of ways for players to collect all the power stars. As a kid, Mario 64 was my gateway to the platforming genre. It opened my eyes to the various types of worlds developers could create, and the different ways in which characters could move around in that space.
But it's not often we get a new platformer that feels completely different to play.
The second game developed by indie studio Heart Machine, Solar Ash takes the 3D platformer and asks, what if we made a game where moving around is extremely fun? Now let me be clear, I'm not debunking other great platformers with characters that have slower and more acrobatic movesets. These games all have well-designed levels that take advantage of these character skills, which make those games fun in their own unique ways. But I'm shocked to see that there aren't many platformers that capture the feeling of speed and fluidity that Solar Ash has.
Move the left stick and you'll move at a brisk pace, but hold down the right trigger and you'll be propelled by your gravity boots.
This is the main way you'll be getting around the world, and it never gets old. Skating around these environments feels incredible, because you skate fast enough to gain a sense of speed, but still have enough control to make sharp turns and time jumps. I started to get into this flow state where I was boosting over platforms, hopping on rails, and weaving my way around obstacles. It reminded me of Jet Set Radio, which turned out to be one of the inspirations for Solar Ash. The skating also aids in the game's combat. You have your standard attack button and a homing attack that flies towards the nearest enemy, and that's it. However, by skating, you quickly figure out how to combine your movements for offense and defense. You're able to boost while you're skating, which in certain situations can be used as a dodge from incoming attacks. If you want to be more offensive, you can weave your way around attacks, rushing in towards the enemy for the kill. I've seen people view this simplistic combat as a negative, but I think it leaves more room for the player to use the environment to their advantage. I only wish there were a larger variety of enemies, as the ones you face start to make these encounters feel repetitive. But those are just the small fry. The real threats are these. The Remnants, giant creatures who reside over the various biomes you visit. They serve as the game's bosses, which are only accessible after exploring the levels and completing platforming challenges where you take out parts of black matter known as anomalies. The anomalies can be defeated by slashing various nodes within a specific time limit until reaching its core, where you deliver the final blow. These challenges are the game's way of testing your platforming skills, and while some of them require satisfying, fast and fluid movement, others bring your pace to a halt, with moments of climbing and awkward grappling. The Remnants provide a similar challenge, but at a much bigger scale. You attach yourself to these creatures and, like before, slash the nodes until reaching its weak point. These bosses are an interesting concept, but they typically feel more trial and error. One mistimed jump or turn can slip you up, placing you back on the ground. However, they aren't too difficult by any means, and usually end on a satisfying note when you get the platforming down. Solar Ash takes on a cel-shaded look similar to games like Wind Waker and Borderlands. This style works in the game's favor as it enhances the otherworldly feel of the planet you explore. Fungi-infested lands that surround a large Gothic church, a fragmented cityscape once bustling with life, and remains of a fortress once ruled by an ancient civilization are just some of the locations you'll discover. Volumetric lighting and reflections add to its look, such as when the sun shimmers on the poisonous waters or when light leaks through windows. The movement and combat feel animated and full of life. Streaks of light trail behind you as you skate on the surface of clouds, and every punch and kick sends out bright neon swipes that disintegrate your foes in seconds. This game also uses vivid colors incredibly well. From the moment this game was first revealed, I immediately knew which studio was working on this game.
Previously, Heart Machine created an indie title called Hyperlight Drifter.
The game was fairly successful for the studio's first title, and part of that reason was because of its vibrant pink and blue color palette. Although both games are quite different gameplay-wise, it almost feels like Solar Ash is a spiritual successor to Hyper Light Drifter, being the stepping stone for the studio to pursue more ambitious projects in the future. I encourage everyone to play this game on an HDR-supported screen, because it shows off the vibrancy of Solar Ash's full palette. I can't understate how many times I stopped just to pan the camera across the skyline, observing the depth of its colors. The art of Solar Ash meshes well with its soundtrack. Going for more of an ambient mood, the music evokes the feeling that you're exploring a world on its last legs. Occasional bits of synth will fill in the emptiness, but most of the time you're on your own as you roam the planet. The music only builds in intensity once you awaken one of the remnants. This track builds up the fear these threats pose to the planet and the survivors who remain. In Solar Ash, you play as Ray. You're known for being a Void Runner, explorers who dive into black holes for the discovery and salvaging of valuable items. The game opens with Ray jumping off her spaceship to dive into the Ultra Void, a massive black hole that's been swallowing every world along its path. Once touching down, Ray meets Sid, an artificial intelligence that assists the Void Runners in their missions. Sid advises Ray that in order to pull their home out of the Ultra Void's gravitational pull, she must travel the world and take out the giant creatures known as the Remnants. Taking out all the Remnants will supposedly activate the Starseed, a device built by the Void Runners that's set to collapse black holes by altering space-time. So you set out to activate the Starseed, and maybe find the other Void Runners along the way. As you can see, this game introduces a lot of new terms and concepts that can be pretty overwhelming, and that's just a summary of the plot. There's plenty of lore to uncover through text and the environments, which explain everything from the history of a specific biome to how Ray's boots allow her to skate around the surface. Side quests can be found offering more insight on those who remain in the Void, and collectibles can be uncovered that tell the narrative of the remaining Void Runners. Find them all in one level, and you can net yourself different kinds of armor, all with their own unique perks. It's apparent that Heart Machine wanted to create a world that players would be intrigued about, and for the most part, it's all interesting. My only complaint here is the game's use of complex vocabulary. Sometimes I'd read a passage of text containing words so complex, I felt like I was trying to decipher Shakespeare.
When as in strands my Celia grows, then my spores how sweetly flow, that liquefaction of thy molds.
You can glide through this game without acknowledging most of the lore, but I'd recommend doing so as it makes the ending feel more impactful. Solar Ash is a game with movement so exhilarating and views so breathtaking that I'd almost recommend it on those aspects alone. Aside from a few mishaps in its narrative, Heart Machine has created a platformer so fun and unique that I'd advise any fan of the genre to try it out. Right now, Solar Ash is available for $40 on PS5, PS4, and the Epic Games Store, though I expect the game will eventually come to Steam. I hope this is only the start for Heart Machine's leap into the 3D space, as 3D platformers are usually underappreciated nowadays. Here's hoping indie devs can breathe new life into this genre. Thanks for watching.